Have you ever met someone whose small act of kindness changed everything, even if they never knew it? That's Zara Thompson's story, a 28-year-old waitress at Sunnyside Cafe, a little diner in the middle of a busy city. The place was nothing fancy: red booths with cracked vinyl, the constant hum of coffee machines, and the clink of plates mixing with customer chatter. Zara worked her shifts in a white shirt, red vest, and black pants, her soft blonde curls pulled back in a messy ponytail. She had a knack for noticing people's struggles: a tired mom, a grumpy old man, and she'd do small things to help, like adding extra cream to a coffee or sneaking a free biscuit to a kid. It wasn't for tips, it was just who she was, someone who cared, even though she carried her own quiet loneliness. Zara's days started early, before the sun was up. She'd unlock the cafe's back door, the air cold and smelling of old grease. Her routine was the same: wipe down sticky counters, fill sugar jars, check the coffee pots. The breakfast rush hit hard: office workers grabbing toast, construction guys ordering eggs. Lunch brought delivery drivers and families, and nights had stragglers nursing coffee over pie. Her feet ached by midday, her hands rough from carrying heavy trays, but she kept going. She'd smile, say, "Need a refill?" and pour before they answered, knowing their orders by heart. Customers liked her for it, though she'd wave off their thanks, cheeks pink. Still, in quiet moments she felt alone. Her tiny apartment was just a place to sleep, her evenings spent with a frozen dinner and vague dreams of something more. A trip, maybe, but her paycheck never stretched that far. Mr. Harlan, the cafe's manager, was in his 50s and all business. His voice was rough, like he'd smoked too long, and he'd snap, "Zara, move faster. Tables don't clean themselves." He stood with arms crossed, watching the dining room like a hawk. But he wasn't heartless. He'd give her extra shifts when bills piled up, never making a fuss about it. The cafe was his life, its faded sign and chipped mugs part of him. He'd built it from scratch and fought to keep it going, even as new chain restaurants nearby stole customers. Zara worked hard, her strength quiet but steady. She'd joke with the cook about a guy who wanted his burger with no bun, just ketchup, or tell a regular about the time she dropped a whole tray of sodas. But when the diner slowed, she'd stare out the smudged windows at the city's blur: cars, lights, people living lives she only glimpsed. She wasn't miserable, but there was an ache for something real, a connection to break the grind. One rainy afternoon, during her short lunch break, Zara slipped out to the alley behind the cafe. The air smelled of wet pavement and far-off traffic, rain tapping the dumpster's lid. She sat on a crate, unwrapping her ham sandwich, the bread a bit stale from her bag. That's when she saw him, a skinny 15-year-old boy hovering near the dumpster, his white shirt and blue jeans soaked. His hair was messy, his eyes sharp and cautious, like he'd learned to stay out of sight. Oliver, though she didn't know his name yet, poked around the trash, looking for food. His stomach growled, loud in the quiet alley. Zara stopped, sandwich halfway to her mouth. Most people would have ignored him, a street kid blending into the city's edges. But something about his hunched shoulders, the way he tried to hide his hunger, hit her hard. She tore her sandwich in half and held it out. "Take it. You look like you need this more than me." He froze, staring like he thought it was a trick. Then he stepped closer, took it, and mumbled, "Thanks." He sat a few feet away on the wet ground, eating fast, like he hadn't had a meal in days. They didn't talk much, just sat there, the rain a soft hum around them. The next day, he was back, lingering in the same spot. Zara brought out a leftover muffin from the morning rush, its edges crumbling. "Got a name?" she asked, handing it over. "Oliver," he said, biting into it. "Zara," she replied, leaning against the wall. He pulled a broken watch from his pocket, his fingers quick as he fiddled with the clasp, fixing it with a bent paperclip. She noticed how good he was with his hands, turning junk into something useful. "That's pretty smart," she said, and his eyes flicked up, a quick spark of pride. It turned into a habit. During her breaks, Zara shared what she had: half a turkey sandwich, an apple, some cookies from the cafe's day-olds. Oliver started talking more, telling her about fixing old radios for fun or how he liked watching the city lights from a park bench at night. Zara listened, her tiredness fading. Those moments felt different, like she was doing something that mattered. Oliver's quick smiles, the way he'd show her a fixed-up toy car or a cracked phone he'd patched, became the best part of her day. Mr. Harlan caught on soon enough. One evening, as Zara carried a plate of fries out back, he followed, his boots crunching on gravel. "What are you doing, Zara? Feeding strays now? That food's for paying customers." His voice was sharp, his face creased with irritation. She stood tall, meeting his eyes. "He's a kid, Mr. Harlan. He's hungry. It's not hurting anybody." He shook his head, muttering about how the world was full of kids like that. "Focus on work," he said, turning back inside. Zara ignored him, leaving the fries where Oliver would find them. Their talks grew warmer over the weeks. Oliver told her how he'd learned to fix gadgets from watching videos on library computers. He dreamed of building something big someday, though he didn't say what. Zara shared stories of funny customers, like the lady who sent back her soup because it was too soupy. She wondered about Oliver's life, why a smart kid like him was alone, scavenging for food. He dodged those questions, his eyes darkening, and she didn't push. Instead, she kept showing up, offering food and kindness, like a steady hand in his uncertain world. Their bond built slowly, through small moments. One day, he showed her a tiny radio he'd fixed, its static crackling with a faint song. "Found it in a trash can?" he said, grinning. Zara laughed, clapping as it played. Another time, she brought him a warm roll, and they sat closer, sharing it. She told him about a customer who tipped her with a drawing of a cat, and he chuckled, his guard dropping. The alley became their space, a pocket of quiet in the city's noise. As the days turned colder, Zara noticed Oliver's clothes were thinner, his sneakers worn. She started sneaking out extra food, muffins, a banana, anything she could spare. Mr. Harlan's warnings grew sharper. "You're gonna get in trouble, Zara," he said one night, catching her with a wrapped sandwich. "We can't afford this." But she couldn't stop. Oliver's trust, the way he looked at her like she was more than just a waitress, kept her going. It felt like family, in a small, unspoken way. One chilly evening, the sun sinking low, Zara handed Oliver a warm dinner roll, still soft from the cafe's oven. They sat on the crate, the alley quiet except for the distant hum of traffic. His fingers brushed hers as he took the roll, his eyes softer, like he was starting to believe in her kindness. She leaned in, her voice gentle but curious. "Tell me more, kid," she said, hoping he'd let her in just a little. The city's noise felt far away, muffled by the evening's chill and the faint patter of rain on the dumpster. Oliver clutched the warm dinner roll she'd given him, his fingers picking at its edges like he was nervous. His white shirt was damp, his blue jeans worn thin at the knees. He looked down, his messy hair falling over his eyes, and took a shaky breath. "It's not a good story," he said quietly. "Foster homes. Been in them since I was little. Some were okay, but the last one," he stopped, his jaw tight. "They didn't care. Locked the fridge at night. Yelled if I ate too much. Said I was a burden." Zara's heart sank, but she stayed still, letting him talk. He hinted at something worse, a shady adoption, papers signed for money, not care. "I ran when it got too much," he said, almost whispering. "Better out here than there." Zara nodded, her throat tight. She knew what it was like to feel alone. She'd lost her parents young, had to scrape by on her own. "You're strong, Oliver," she said, her voice steady. "Smarter than most kids your age." He shrugged, but a small smile flickered, like her words meant something. They sat there, the alley dim, sharing the roll. Oliver opened up more, telling her about sleeping in parks, hiding from cops, and fixing broken gadgets to trade for food. Zara shared a bit too, how she dreamed of seeing the ocean but never had the money. Their talks felt like a lifeline, a quiet bond that made the city feel less cold. The next day, Zara brought out a leftover slice of pie, its crust crumbling. Oliver's eyes lit up as he took it, sitting cross-legged on the ground. "Ever fix something big?" she asked, watching him eat. He grinned, pulling a cracked phone from his pocket. "Got this working yesterday," he said, showing her the screen flickering to life. "Might sell it for $10. Zara laughed, impressed. "You're gonna do something big someday, kid." His smile grew, and for a moment he looked like any other teenager, not a runaway scavenging for scraps. But Mr. Harlan wasn't happy. One morning, as Zara stacked plates in the kitchen, he blocked her path, wiping his hands on his apron. "Saw you out back with that boy again," he said, his voice sharp. "You're giving away food we can't spare, Zara. We got bills piling up and you're feeding strays." His eyes narrowed, but there was worry there too. The cafe was struggling, fewer customers each week. Zara stood her ground. "He's not a stray, Mr. Harlan. He's a kid who's hungry. I'm just helping." Harlan shook his head, muttering about how she'd regret it. "Focus on work, or you're out," he warned, walking off. His words stung, but Zara couldn't stop. Oliver needed her. She kept their routine going. When breaks were short, she'd leave food by the dumpster, a wrapped sandwich, a banana, sometimes a napkin with "Stay safe, kid" scrawled on it. Oliver always found it, flashing a quick grin when he saw her next. Their talks deepened. He told her about fixing an old radio with parts from a junkyard, how it played a fuzzy song that made him feel alive. She shared stories of funny customers, like the guy who ordered decaf but swore it kept him up. The alley became their place, a small corner of the world where they weren't alone. One evening, Oliver showed her a toy car he'd fixed, its wheels spinning smoothly. "Found it in a trash can?" he said, proud. Zara clapped, laughing as he raced it across the crate. "You're a genius," she said, and he blushed, ducking his head. She started bringing extra food, muffins, an apple, anything she could sneak from the cafe. Each time, Oliver's guard dropped a little more. He told her about watching city lights from a hill, dreaming of building something that'd make people notice him. Zara listened, her heart full. These moments were her escape from the diner's grind, a reminder she could make a difference. Mr. Harlan's warnings got louder. One night, as Zara slipped out with a plate of fries, he caught her. "This stops now, Zara," he said, his voice low and serious. "We're barely staying open. You want to help every kid on the street, do it on your own dime." She met his eyes, her hands steady. "He's not every kid. He's Oliver." Harlan sighed, looking tired. "You're too soft," he said, but didn't push further. Zara left the fries anyway, her heart set on keeping her promise to Oliver. Their bond grew stronger. Oliver started trusting her, sitting closer, talking more. Zara ruffled his hair, laughing. "You're gonna run the world someday." He looked at her, his eyes soft, like he believed her. She wondered about his past, what had driven him to the streets, why he dodged questions about family. But she didn't pry, just kept showing up with food and kindness, hoping it was enough. Then, one gray morning, Oliver didn't come. Zara waited by the dumpster, her coffee cold in her hands. The alley was empty, just wet pavement and trash. She scanned the street, her stomach twisting. The next day, he was still gone. Worry clawed at her. "Where are you, kid?" she whispered, checking the alley after every shift. She asked delivery drivers, the guy at the corner store, anyone who might have seen a skinny boy in a white shirt. No one had. Days stretched into weeks, each one heavier. The crate felt like a ghost of their talks, the silence louder than the city's hum. Zara kept working, pouring coffee, wiping tables, her smile forced. The cafe struggled more each month. New high-rises blocked the sun, and chain restaurants pulled customers away. Mr. Harlan's gruffness softened into quiet worry. "Might not make it another year," he said one night, counting a thin stack of bills. Zara nodded, her own years blurring by. She turned 30, then 32, her blonde curls streaked with gray, still in her red vest. She thought of Oliver every day, his quick hands, his big dreams. Had her kindness mattered? She didn't know, but the question haunted her. Time wore on. The city changed, growing louder, shinier, while the cafe faded. Zara's hope of seeing Oliver again dimmed, but she never stopped looking. She'd check the alley, half expecting his messy hair and quick grin. The diner's booths grew emptier, its paint peeling. Zara kept going, her resilience fraying but unbroken. She'd serve coffee, joke with regulars, and push through, but Oliver's absence was a quiet ache. One stormy evening years later, rain pounded the cafe's windows as Zara locked up alone. The diner was a shadow of itself, its sign barely readable. She stepped into the downpour, pulling her jacket tight, umbrella shaking in the wind. Thunder rumbled, and suddenly, headlights cut through the rain. 3 black SUVs screeched to a halt, surrounding her on the empty street. Doors opened, suited figures stepping out, their faces hard to see in the wet glow. Zara froze, her keys digging into her palm, her heart pounding as the air grew thick with tension. The rain poured down, soaking Zara's jacket as she stood frozen on the empty street, her keys biting into her palm. 3 black SUVs screeched to a halt around her, their headlights slicing through the storm. The doors swung open, and suited figures stepped out, their faces stern in the wet glow. As one, they raised their hands in a crisp salute, a gesture that made Zara's heart pound faster. Then, a tall man in a sharp suit emerged from the lead vehicle, rain beating on his coat. The light caught his face, and Zara's breath caught. It was Oliver, now in his 30s, his eyes still sharp but carrying a quiet strength. He approached slowly, a warm smile breaking through. "Zara," he said, his voice steady. He took her hand gently, kissed it, and looked up at her. "I'm your kid, Oliver." Her eyes widened, tears mixing with the rain. "Kid," she whispered, her voice shaking. "Is that really you?" He nodded, his smile soft, and pulled her into a hug, the storm raging around them. They hurried inside Sunnyside Cafe to escape the downpour, Zara's hands trembling as she unlocked the door. The diner's familiar smell, old coffee, worn wood, hit her as the lights flickered on. Oliver's team stayed outside, their figures shadowy through the rain-streaked windows. Inside, they sat at a corner booth, the same one Zara used to wipe down after late shifts. She studied him, his neat suit, his calm confidence, and felt the years collapse. "You're all grown up," she said, her voice catching, a tear slipping down her cheek. Oliver leaned forward, his eyes warm. "Because of you," he said simply, his voice low but sure. He started talking, and Zara listened, her coffee untouched, cooling in her hands. "That sandwich you gave me in the alley," he said, "it was more than food. It was someone caring when no one else did." His words stirred memories of that rainy day she'd torn her ham sandwich in half, offering it to a skinny kid by the dumpster. She'd thought it was nothing, just a small act, but Oliver's steady gaze said otherwise. He told her how he'd vanished all those years ago, caught by cops, sent to a shelter, then back to the streets. "I was lost," he said, looking at the table, his fingers tracing its edge. "But I kept hearing your voice, saying I could do something big." Zara's mind flashed to the alley, to Oliver at 15, fiddling with a broken watch, his fingers quick and clever. She saw him now, a billionaire, but still that same kid in his eyes. He explained how her kindness had been a spark. After disappearing, he'd survived by fixing gadgets for cash, radios, earbuds, anything he could scavenge. He'd sneak into libraries, teaching himself to code on outdated computers. "My first app was a mess," he said, grinning. "Crashed every phone I tested it on." Zara laughed, the sound easing the knot in her chest. That app led to another, then a tech company, building tools for everyday people, gadgets inspired by the fixes he'd shown her, like that toy car with wheels he'd made spin again. "I just gave you a sandwich," Zara said, shaking her head, her voice soft. "It wasn't much." Oliver leaned closer, his eyes intense. "It was everything. You saw me when I was invisible." Tears spilled down her cheeks, and she wiped them away, embarrassed. He reached across the table, squeezing her hand, his touch warm and steady. "I've been looking for you," he said. "Took years to find this diner again." Sunnyside Cafe had stayed in his heart, the place where one small act changed his life. "I'm here to give back," he said, his voice firm, eyes bright with purpose. The next morning, Oliver's team rolled in. Trucks parked outside, workers spilling out with tools and plans. Zara stood by the counter, watching, stunned, as they tore out the old booths, sanded down cracked walls, and hauled in new tables. Over days, the diner transformed. Fresh paint in warm colors, polished wood floors, a sleek coffee bar that kept the cozy feel. The faded sign came down, replaced with a bright one that glowed, Sunnyside Cafe, against the city's gray skyline. Oliver was there every step, directing crews, checking details, but always pausing to talk with Zara. "This place deserves to live," he told her one afternoon, handing her a coffee as they watched workers install new lights that cast a soft glow. Mr. Harlan showed up, his gruff face tight with suspicion. "What's all this noise?" he muttered, pacing the kitchen as contractors moved around him. Too much change for an old place like this. But even he softened, watching customers trickle in, drawn by the buzz. Old regulars gasped at the new look, clean tables, modern menus, but still the same diner soul. Oliver didn't just fix the cafe, he brought it back to life. He hired locals, many of them kids like he'd been, giving them jobs as baristas, cooks, or dishwashers. "No one goes hungry here," he told Zara, setting up a program for free meals served out back where the dumpster once held scraps. Zara and Oliver spent evenings catching up, their bond deep and warm, like family. They'd sit in the revamped cafe, sharing coffee, laughing about old times. He told her about his first big break, a tech demo where his laptop died mid-pitch, but he talked his way through it. She shared stories of diner regulars, like the old lady who still came for cherry pie every Tuesday, swearing it was the best in the city. Their talks were easy, built on years of gratitude, not romance but something stronger, a connection that had shaped them both. One night, Oliver handed Zara a contract, naming her the cafe's manager. "This place is yours now," he said, his voice serious. "You've earned it." Zara stared at the paper, her eyes blurring with tears. For the first time, she felt steady, like her years of hard work had led somewhere real. Oliver's impact spread beyond the diner. He funded scholarships for local kids, naming them after Zara, giving them chances he never had. He built a tech lab nearby, teaching teens to code, to fix gadgets like he once did. The cafe became a hub, families eating burgers, students studying over free coffee, kids getting meals they didn't have to beg for. Zara watched it all, her quiet world now bright with purpose. She'd walk through the diner, seeing smiles, hearing laughter, and feel a warmth she hadn't known in years. Oliver would join her sometimes, swapping his suit for a sweater, looking at ease as he helped serve coffee or chatted with a kid about a broken phone. One evening, as the cafe hummed with life, Zara stood by the counter, watching a family laugh over milkshakes. Mr. Harlan, now retired but visiting, gave her a rare nod. "You did good, Zara," he said, his voice gruff but warm. Oliver was there too, checking in, his eyes crinkling as he caught her gaze. They stepped out to the alley for old time's sake, sharing a coffee on the crate where they'd first met. The dumpster was gone, replaced by a small garden with benches. "Remember that toy car I fixed?" Oliver asked, chuckling. Zara laughed, nodding. Spun like it was brand new. She thought back to that first sandwich, to the skinny kid with cautious eyes, to the years of wondering if he was okay. Her small act of kindness had rippled further than she'd ever imagined. It wasn't loud or grand, but it had changed everything. Kindness doesn't need to be big to matter, she realized. Sometimes, a sandwich can start a legacy. That was today's story. If it moved you, hit that like button, share it with a friend who appreciates a powerful twist, and subscribe for more cinematic tales that linger long after the screen fades. Let us know in the comments where you're watching from.